an interesting person who I've met online, and he was also referred over by Michelangelo Flores, previous person who I've done an interview with, and he spoke really highly of this person. He's an entrepreneur. He's also into personal development, and we had a quick discussion that he's building some sort of community of interesting people. So really keen to have a chat about that. So I'd like to welcome you onto the show, Lauren.
Thank you. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to the conversation we'll be having, and big shout out to Michael for connecting us.
Yeah, sounds good. Awesome. No worries. So probably just kick it off. So, you've got the accent there. I've just noticed that you've got the accent. So where's particularly are you? What's your background there?
Right. I was born in the Netherlands and I lived in Belgium, so it's the countries are near each other. It's pretty close. It's pretty the same, but at the same time, there's a lot of differences for the culture and things like that. So I kind of grew up in Belgium being a Dutch guy. And I recently moved over to Warsaw in Poland like 1 week ago. So yeah, I'm from Europe, West Europe, and now I've moved to East Europe.
Oh wow, nice. Yeah, I was in Europe a couple months ago. I was actually in the Netherlands. It's very nice over there, and I noticed
Really,
that
where did you go?
we went down to obviously went to Amsterdam first. So Amsterdam was really nice over there, and then we did the tour down over to Germany, then Italy, and then
Mm.
Switzerland and so forth. It was very nice. I love Europe, you know. So yeah, it's a beautiful place over there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. You know, the thing is, like, every your circumstances are usual for yourself, right? Because I know a lot of people, if they go to Amsterdam, it's so amazing. But if I go there, it's like, okay. I mean, for me, Amsterdam is still like a city apart from where I usually live. I was like 3 weeks ago, I was in Amsterdam, but I really didn't even enjoy it. It's a
Wow.
very beautiful city. It's really great to see it, but I wouldn't really want to live there. And from my personal view, it's kind of like a fucked up place in some senses. But you know
Okay.
that everywhere. But
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating, man. It's yeah, a lot of tourists when they think of Amsterdam, oh, go there, smoke weed and everything, and it's a cool place. But because you're close to that area, it's like okay, whatever, right? So yeah, it's interesting hearing your perspective. Uh,
right, I think that's the same thing for everything, right? I mean, even as I'm in Poland right now, there's a lot of people from Poland who go to the Netherlands and Belgium to work. You know, for
mm,
more like the working class type of people. Um, and it's very usual for logistic companies or production companies to hire people from outside countries. So for them, it's a huge step to go to any country in the West, in West Europe, because they have more establishment, they have more opportunities. But for me, it's kind of reversed because I grew up in the West Europe, let's say, and it's a bit established. The Netherlands and Belgium are pretty solid countries in terms of their whole economics and things like that. Well, we that's a whole different discussion, but
yeah.
basically, I moved out to a country which is a bit less developed in the sense of the economics, let's say. However, there's far more opportunity for me being here because I'm in a bigger city. I'm in East Europe. The people are a bit more traditional, and if I look at the standpoint of doing the best what is for myself, it's way better for me to do, to move countries to something like this, and that's pretty interesting because it's kind of the reverse effect for other people.
Interesting. So I guess it's as you mentioned, it's independent. You have your own economy, and there's a lot of opportunity in Poland, right? So, and if there's opportunity outside, people do go outside, but there's still a lot going on in Poland. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, basically everything I do is online, right? So it doesn't really matter which location I'm at. But I like to be in an environment where I do have some opportunities. And to give you a good example, when I bought this apartment or when I rent this apartment, I networked with a ton of people because the company who's managed my property, they are pretty established. It's one of the biggest companies in whole Poland. They sell penthouses for millions. So I've been able to establish a connection just by working with them. And that's not the only thing because I had to go to a notary. They handled the translator for me. I networked with the translator. The translator expanded my network with accountants. So already by investing just in here, I've made so much connections. I went to the office of another accountant and we spoke about some things and he wanted my assistance with their business. So I've been here for 1 week and already expanded my network rapidly with very
Mm,
interesting profiles just because I'm in a solid network, in a solid environment. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's something really beneficial. And even while I'm not really going that much outside, I still already reap the benefits of moving locations. And even the small things, because in my Instagram bio, I put the Warsaw location. So now people who are in Warsaw, they follow me as well. And those are not some small dudes, right? I have some very big profiles who are looking at me and they give me a follow just because they see them in the same location. So those are some benefits of moving out. And I've traveled a bit lately. Like I've been to more of the south of Europe, like Spain, Portugal, Cyprus. It's very nice, but I wouldn't really want to live there. It's a bit too comfortable. Like it's a bit too much swimming pools and sun. And I'd rather be in an environment where it's more like work focused and business related.
So you're more focused on career development at the moment. You're very ambitious. You want to achieve your goals. You're at that level at the moment. Like that's your stage in life where you're just building the empire, building the companies and so
Absolutely.
forth. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the best thing to do, man. Because if you're
Mm,
young, I think if you're below 25, you can basically take as much risk as you can. But it depends how you view risk, right? Like if you drive a car while being drunk, that's a stupid risk. But if you say, okay, let me try to invest X amount of my portfolio into something, let me try to start up a company, let me start to move to a different country, that's the risk I take. So I do believe in calculated risk. But just by being young, like below 25, I think you have the leverage to just kind of try as much as possible. Because if you really fuck up, what could happen? You still have the time to go the usual route. You still have the opportunities to get a job and have the average life, if that's what you want. So
mm,
yeah, I mean, I basically think it's just a matter of doing as much as possible and making sure you can get the most results that are in front of you, and just
mm.
attack every day.
That's awesome, man. But there was probably a time when you weren't that ambitious, but then you transitioned to over being this driven person, goal oriented. What was there some sort of trigger, or was there a person, mentor, or book that you read? What was it?
Great question. I think it's probably a combination of events. The thing is, like when I was in high school, which is the most of my life I've been in school, right? I'm 21 years old, but I dropped out of college. But the whole period of my life, I've always been in school, and I hated school so much. But the thing is that I never really knew what it is I wanted to do, and I felt like the education system didn't give me the opportunity to really, discover myself or really develop myself. So I always went through life just going through life without really having a clear purpose. And at some point at the end of high school, I began to really develop myself. So I began reading some books, and I began watching some videos online, and that really allowed me to get a different view of life. And from that moment on, I just gained more clarity. And the more I talked to people, the more I saw things online, the more I tried things, I mean, it just became a reality. And I created that reality by initiating the fact of, okay, let me try this, let me explore this, let me humble myself to get a different viewpoint, because it's pretty crazy. You kind of have to reprogram your whole mind if you're at such a stage to become, a different person, let's say, because you have to develop yourself in another way to, get where you're at. And I think it's pretty true for you as well, right? Like
Mm,
you probably had some changes in your thinking patterns that allowed you to be where you're at right now.
yeah, and also, you mentioned last time that you were networking with a lot of people, and I did have a look on your Instagram page, and I can see that you're on a call with Eric Thomas, and there was other people that you're on the call with, and I can see that you're a networker, right? So
Right.
so how did you was that always in your DNA as a networker, or did you build that skill and then you slowly, you know, got to meet all these people?
Yeah, so I think from a natural standpoint, I'm not really that connecting with people. Like I tend to be on myself.
Hmm.
However, I discovered the benefits of networking. And I like to talk about networking because it's a very broad topic, and networking has brought me a lot of opportunities. Even from a business perspective, if you say, hey, I want to get clients, you can say, let me do outreaching, let me run advertisements, let me cold call, whatever it is. But networking for me has always been the most beneficial thing to do. And I really discovered that if you put yourself in the right position and you identify opportunities, plus you allow yourself to humble you in some way, you have the chance to meet with people. And that's a great thing because, for example, I went live on Instagram with Arno about Stefan Ronald Bell and Michael Ringer. Those are
Hmm.
like Like I'm not sure if you're familiar with those needs, but
Yeah.
those guys are going online, and I requested to join. And I basically had something in my mind which I wanted their advice from. And it wasn't really something I wanted to talk about publicly. Like I talked about my situation at home, I had some struggles, and I kind of felt a bit ashamed because a lot of people who went live, they were my friends or people I know or people I don't kind of business with, and I don't really want to talk about it publicly. But just by allowing myself to humble myself in that way, I did get that advice. And I have to say the advice those guys gave me did really contribute to where I'm at now because I talked about moving out and stuff, and they really gave me some guidelines which shifted my whole mind in certain things. And now I'm here. So
Mm.
just by taking that opportunity, and you mentioned Eric Thomas as well. I've enrolled in his coaching program, and it's a really great experience for me because people, for those who don't know, he's familiar with, as a motivational speaker, right? But people say like, "Oh, I don't need motivation. Like, I don't need to watch a video to get motivated." But that's not what he does because Eric Thomas is a great person in personality, and what he basically does, he's using the DISC assessment to study personality types. And by doing that, I've really, really developed myself in solid ways. It's been super beneficial to me. It's probably one of the best investments I've made in myself just by allowing myself to know what type of person I am. So that's been super great. And even when on a call with Eric Thomas, it's like a group coaching call, like a few hundred people in it, but I just raise my hand first and say, hey, I want to ask something. So you have to put yourself in the right places, and on top of that, you can get a lot done by paying. I've been in calls with Luke Belmar, with Brandon Carter, with a lot of very interesting prospects, and that's just because I'm in a solid network, you know. So yeah, it's just doing what is possible and trying to get those people because I always say interactions are super beneficial. You want to have interactions because that allows you to gain more insights, expand your network, and discover more.
Yeah, you also touched on the DISC personality profile. For those who are watching and curious, what's your personality profile?
Right. So it depends on what kind of terms you give to it. But for me, it's like the C is my biggest one,
Ah,
uh, which is like analytical and very precise. And that's a very interesting point because it's not about like putting yourself into frames, but it's more like identifying how you react to certain opportunities and what kind of things how you operate in certain environments. And also how people perceive you and how you can better work with other people. So I've been able to develop that for myself, and I've learned, okay, I'm the type of person who's very analytical. Like from a natural point of view, I always think before I act. And by doing so, I've been able to develop my drive more, like learning to put myself in a decision-making position. So really identifying who I am as a person, let's say, has been super beneficial to, getting ahead in life, let's say.
mm. And for those who are scared to, you know, drop out of school or quit their jobs, and they want to start their own thing, what advice would you give them?
Right. So one advice someone who's helped me a lot told me that if you're freelance or something like that, your goal is freedom. However, freedom is provided by stability. So you want to identify some ways to get stability first. Like if you want to drop out of college or if you want to leave or change your job, you have to think, okay, how much money should I actually need to make sure I can do this full time? Because when I dropped off college, I said to myself, my goal, I dropped out by the end of January 2022 in college. And I said to myself, my goal is to become a full-time entrepreneur by the end of 2022. I achieved it after 1 month, but that's irrelevant because I told myself I want to become a full-time entrepreneur. Like I didn't say, hey, I want to make 10K a month. I was very realistic with the outcome I wanted to achieve because I know that will provide me the stability. Like I know it will provide me the fact of doing this full time. And that was my goal. So for those who don't really know what to do, I think be very realistic, identify your situation. And if you live at home with your parents, you probably can take a lot of risks. If you already have like a house or children or whatever, I think you should stack that up over time. Start a side hustle, get some income, and then double down on that, and then leave your job.
Yeah, I love that. I love it how you didn't say just to quit your job or quit everything and then just go into it. Like you actually have a plan in place. You manage your risks, and look, your personality is all about it's analytical, it's managing that risk. So it's really good. It's really good advice there.
Right.
Yeah.
You can
And
just go,
yep,
you can just take the risk, right? It works,
yeah.
but it depends on what your situation is. Like I don't know what responsibilities other people have, and
Mm,
and most of the times you can take that risk, but you do have to have some sort of plan, right?
100%. Okay, so you also briefly mentioned about you're building up this network. I'm just curious about what's this network thing that you're building up, and what does it comprise of? What's the goal there?
Right. So as I've been primarily on Twitter creating content for a while now, and I've done some posting, and I'm actually looking to start up everything again. So I have a lot of videos and contents coming out soon. But part of the thing I've been building up is my own community, and I think having a community is a very solid place because it allows you to connect people with each other. And moreover, I can invite different people from my network to share network with each other, right? And I mean, instead of just writing tweets, instead of just sending DMs, it's so more personal if you have a group of people, and it really allows you to get ahead in life because, as I told you before, interactions are super important. So the more interactions you have, the better advantages you have. Like if you try to start a business as a freelancer and you talk to nobody, you don't get anywhere. But if you can talk to someone who's ahead of you, if you can talk to someone who's doing the same thing as you, if you can talk to someone who you might be able to help, there's so much opportunity for you to get ahead. And my community is basically tailored around online business and self-improvement. I call it the next level. So it's kind of like, let's go to the next level, regardless of what it is. It might be uplifting your gym, it might be uplifting your finances, it might be uplifting anything. So part of the things I am planning to roll out as well is a premium version because it's free to join, and I'm planning to remain it free but have a paid version as well. And I like to include a number of things. For example, I want to help people study the DISC assessment because it's been so beneficial to me. I like to share that. I like to invite some speakers from my network, you know. So there's a lot of things I want to do to contribute value into the group. But moreover, it's a collection of individuals who can get more opportunities, expand their own network, and make friends. And even as I haven't really promoted it a lot, there's a lot of coming out of it already. We have over 100 members. There's people who are doing business already. There's so much stuff that comes out of it. And I even met up with people in person because I was to Cyprus on a trip with some boys, and there were just two people in my community, and we just met up, right? So it's super crazy what is possible with just the online world in general, but having a community in place, which is a solid one, it's like really going to the next level, you know, especially with having the next level. So
Yeah, I totally agree. It's like what they say, your net worth is your network, right? And yeah, I 100% agree that it's the people that you know, because the whole world is controlled by people, and the more people that you know, the more resources that you
absolutely.
get, and so forth. So that's really cool. And how can people get in touch with you, by the way, if they want to know more
Right.
about what you're up to?
So basically, I'm primarily on Twitter and Instagram. Probably you can reach out to me on Twitter. It's Lawrence_online. You can just message me there. I'm always open to conversate with people because I think it's a great way to have interactions and get stuff out of that. So yeah, I'm always open to help other people, you know, and that's a very great point because allowing yourself to help other people will give you so much things, right? And at some point, especially if you are a content creator, you don't want to chase followers, you want to chase loyalty, you want to chase value, right? So if I provide value to people, people will pay their respects to me. And that's even something very important in the whole networking aspect, you know, like people try to network in a way to just have a DM with someone, but they kind of ignore the whole real life aspect, right? So if you're a person who has the basic competence of always being on time, always being very strict, always providing value, just being a decent person, actually, just being a professional, you will be able to identify a lot of opportunities and people will respect you, you know?
Mm,
And that's the thing, like people who are ahead of you, they don't need you. So you have to really take that extra mile in order to just get, you know, your foot in the door. But I found myself that just by becoming a valuable person, regardless of your skills, just by having the right mindset, you'll identify a lot. And that's how I always am open for interactions because if I see someone who's similar than me and like I see someone who's building their business, I'm always there to help them out, you know. So people can always reach out to me, and if you want to join the community, you're always welcome. And that's even why I like to remain it free because there's so much paid stuff out there. A lot of that is super bad, like it doesn't even give you anything. So I know the value I provide. So you can join for free, you can see the value, and you can
mm,
even pay to get more. You know, so
yeah.
that's my vision on it.
Yep. So when people join that community, you mentioned before they can see the personality profiles, right? You can understand a lot about the DIS personality profile. There's content on finances, health as well. Is that right? Those main
Right.
key
So
areas. Yeah.
actually, yeah. So I'm working on really rolling that out. I've prepared some channels, let's say, where people can dive into some videos and texts I made, which are kind of like a course within the community. But it's more about the actual chats and the connections you have, because it depends at what stage you are. Because I have a lot of people in my community who are just starting out, like just trying to start up a business. But I also have some very established entrepreneurs in my community who are really doing a big business and they have a lot of stuff going on. And they don't really join my community to get like resources or to get like course information, but they are there for the network and the people in there. So it really depends on what stage you're in. But I think regardless of your stage, if you're just starting out or if you're already making a lot of money online, there's always a value in it.
Mm.
So yes, I'm working on the DISC personality alongside with some more courses and information. But that's really going to roll out very soon for the premium members.
Yep. Awesome. And you mentioned about making money online as well. I think you spoke about e-commerce as well. What's your forte in that one in terms of e-commerce?
Right. So I've actually been always within the website niche. So I started my own company as a student where I provided websites for companies. And later on, I enrolled into e-commerce. And publicly, I don't really talk about e-commerce. Like I don't really provide any direct services to e-commerce brands or anything. However, I've worked with over 100 e-commerce entrepreneurs and I've provided a lot of value to those people. And I'm very established in that niche because I'm part of a company where we have our own platform and we're competing to Shopify, let's say. So I've been able to get a lot of insights from that field, and I might be doing a lot of stuff for that later. But for now, I'm just doing my own track. But
Mm.
e-commerce is a very interesting industry, as are all others. But yeah, it's very great.
Nice. Yeah, it looks like you're fully building all these empires out there, on the internet, and so you got your digital community there. You're working on terms of just the online stuff too, and also notice you're into cigars and whiskeys as well. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to enjoy a cigar from time to time.
Yeah.
It's more like a luxury item to just enjoy. Because here's the thing, like I don't really have this habit of going out every week and grabbing a beer in the pub or anything.
Mm,
So I rather tend to, smoke a cigar in style. I like that.
nice.
And
Yeah.
perhaps a whiskey from.
Yeah. Cool. And you're pretty fit as well. What's your routine in terms of fitness and health as well?
Right. So I haven't been accountable for the last 2 weeks because I
Okay.
recently moved out. I'm going to sign up for a new gym here in Poland. But what I usually do is I go to the gym at least 5 times a week and I just train like a different muscle group each time. So I train like 1 hour a day. And on top of that, I've done some kickboxing as well. So I'm looking to get started back in there as well.
Mm, nice. Looks like you got your whole life organized and you're very driven. You've got the books, you're reading the books, you're inspired by the people as well. What's the biggest thing that you've learned from your networking and the books that you've read? Just curious.
Very interesting. It's definitely a combination of so many different little insights. And I think it's difficult for me to give one answer to say, hey, what has been the most
Mm,
contribution to where you're at, or what is the best thing you've ever learned? But I would really say like it's all on who you are as a person and really developing yourself. So every insight I got was just like if it's a business insight, like how to do things online, or how to talk to people or anything like that. It's always been like a small insight that contributed to my whole knowledge, right? So you can kind of compare yourself to the sort of like a computer which just stores a lot of data. So the more you get, the more pieces you get, the more you can expand out. And I perhaps kind of go around the question, but I will really say that the one of the best things I've really learned is to develop myself, because when I was in high school and I didn't really have a purpose in life, I didn't think about improving myself. Like the whole concept wasn't familiar to me. And I think the best thing I've been able to do is really develop myself and being conscious about my mind, about my thoughts, and what I do. So I think the best thing is really the self improvement. I know it's a very broad topic, it's a bit delusional, but I do think that's the best answer to give, because if you develop yourself, all the other things will come.
yeah, that's great. It's beautiful. Um, And you also mentioned before that when you're connecting with these people online, such as Eric Thomas and these other people that you're talking to online, you normally wouldn't say these things around your immediate environment. You would save these questions for those people, right? So it's like you're protecting yourself. There's some people around you that's not doesn't it's not into personal development and so forth. What's your what's your strategy on that and handling people that's not supportive with your goals and ventures?
Yeah, I've kind of struggled a lot by identifying the value of people around me. I'm
Mm,
pretty a perfectionist out of nature. So I tend to either say yes or no. Like I'm a bit binary in the way I handle people and things. So sometimes I've had to learn myself that I'm a bit too ruthless to people. And that's all because of my personality, because I'm a very analytical person, but I'm a very low engaging person. Like I don't need other people to engage and laugh and all that stuff. Like it's not who I am.
mm,
So being that kind of person, it's easy for me to just don't really care about the person. And especially it's difficult because you grow up with family, you grow up with friends around you. And I really begin to think for myself that every person has their own value, because you don't really find a fit 100% with someone else, but you always being able to identify some sort of value you can give. And family is a whole different conversation. But I do think regardless of who it is you're connecting with, you always have to have your own path. I think self-direction is one of the most important values to me. Being able to identify your own life, what it is you want yourself, and going after that. Because people always tend to, ignore you, or people always tend to not really care. And especially if you're from the average like lifestyle, let's say, your parents, your friends, they all have the same thoughts. Like they all are doing the same thing in some ways. You know what I mean? So you really have to break that through, and it can be difficult because nobody around you, you know, nobody's helping you. Like nobody is doing that. So I remember when I had my local friends, like I told them so many times, like, yo, you have to read this book, you have to check out this video, yo, I'm doing this and this, and they all wouldn't give any fucks. Like they just didn't
mm,
do anything with it. I thought it's a bit disrespectful in some sense, but moreover, I tend to learn like, okay, I'll just do what I do. I try to always help the people around me, but if they don't take action or if they don't improve themselves, I know their value. I can still have a conversation, I can still link up with them and just sit and do anything. But if it really comes down to knowing who provides the most value to me, I tend to identify that very quickly. But I think it's more of an internal process, as it's a bit difficult to be fixated on people, but you have to be flexible with it and just don't try to make any dramas in your mind of, oh, I can't hang out with this person because he doesn't do this.
mm.
So just do the things you can do with a person and do other things with other people. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. So what would be your goals in the next couple of years? Where do you see yourself in the next couple of years?
Right. At this current stage, I'm all about just doubling down on all the things that are in front of me. I'm not looking to start any new business. I'm not looking to start any new thing. I'm just basically doubling down on all the things in front of me because I have a whole roadmap worked out for myself, let's say. So for now, I think for the coming 1 to 2 years, it's all about just expanding that. And as I build my net worth and my network, I will be able to identify more opportunities, invest in bigger things, and start up new companies. Because once you get the ball rolling, once you understand how business and conversation and connecting work, you will be able to start up a lot of businesses if you have the leverage for it, right? So
Mm,
I think over time I'll always expand, do more things, build out my personal brand more and more to have more leverage and more opportunities. But I'll always be just chasing projects, doing things, and trying to do as best as possible.
yep, awesome. And you mentioned before that you dropped out of school, right? If you were to go back in time and talk to younger self when you're dropping out, what would you say?
Interesting question, man. I mean, I basically will advise him to do several things. Because if I had to talk to my previous self, like myself 10 years ago, I will basically try to speed up the process and just inform him the things that have been working out and tell him to do that. However, it's a bit unrealistic because even the things I shouldn't do will contribute to where I'm at,
Yeah, true.
But I do think that it might be a good thing to tell him, what I believe, like you should go to the gym as early as possible. Like I wish I've done that very soon. I wish I started reading more and earlier. And moreover, I wish I started with the whole online business like years ago. Like if I that's the crazy thing, man. Even in my community, I've speak to people who are like 14 to 15 years old, and they're already in this. It's so crazy, man, because I was just playing video games when I was 15 years old.
Yeah.
And if I imagine myself being in this environment and being to try to do business online, bro, if you're 18 years old, you're fucking going to kill it, man. So I wish I just started sooner, but I guess that's the answer for everything. So I think a more important message is not what should I do, what should I say to myself in the previous time, but what I'm going to say to myself right now for the future.
Nice, beautiful. Is there a favorite? Is there a motto that you live by or philosophy that tends to inspire you? Is there anything like that?
Right. I do think I live on certain principles. It's more like the values I have, let's say. So as I mentioned, I think self-direction is a very important value. It really is a combination of traits, let's say. I mean, I probably have a lot of principles and a lot of values I live by, but I don't really have a strict code of, being fixated, because as I experienced, you always develop over time. Like you can set a goal and it doesn't work out, or you can set a goal and you change your mind in 2 months. So I tend to be a very principled, and I think that's just a matter of certain values, like self-direction, being integrity, just being loyal. Those are some traits which I live by, because I think that's very important to be an individual who is competent and who is, people like to trust and things like that. So yeah, I mean, for me, it's really about becoming the best version of myself. That's kind of like my life code, let's say. And that's just a matter of doing what is right.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, yeah, Lawrence, I really appreciate your time today. And you've definitely shared some really great gold nuggets for us to think about and apply in our lives. So I think the ones who are watching, I think they're really fired up to become the best version of themselves, to build the empires. So yeah, once again,
Absolutely.
we appreciate you to be on the show, and yeah, wish you all the best, man.
Thank you so much, man. I really enjoyed the conversation. I'm looking forward to doing it another time later on. And for everybody who's listening and watching, I hope you have a phenomenal day, and go make sure you do what's right.